Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are geeking out over Miss Dior. So today I am comparing the 2017, that's the current version of Miss Dior, and you can see that on the left of the screen with the darker pink ambery juice. It's the bigger bottle at the front of the tray. That's the version you can buy in the shops at the moment. The previous version prior to that, Miss Dior 2012, is the one to the right behind the little candle, and that is the lighter juice. As you can see, it's not so pinky red and it's more of a yellowy, very pale orange. I have been comparing these two quite often. I've been really nerding out over the whole Miss Dior line, the various formulations. You can see the little collection that I've built up there behind these two fragrances, and I have done some other videos and there will be more videos talking about the differences, but today we're contrasting the current formulation versus the prior formulation of Miss Dior. So you can see the bottles look similar. In fact, they are identical. It is only the juice colour that gives it away. This can be difficult when searching online because colours can appear different on different devices. So I would suggest, if you are hunting down the older formulation, that you always get the batch code. The batch code number will give you the year it was produced. I'll show you where the batch code will be found. It's unlikely this is going to pick up on camera, but the batch code for this one is here, and it says 3T04, and it's the 3 that indicates it's 2013. So if we look at this one, this is the more recent version. You have to kind of get the light to catch the engraved code, and I'm struggling to find it actually at the moment. I know it's here because I found it before. It might be on the front, no. There it is. So this time it's over to the left. So where my thumb is, there's the code there. And that says 9, I think that's a 9D or 01, I think that says. So the 9 is what tells you this was created in 2019. There's an excellent article on Raiders of the Lost Scent that will help explain the batch codes for Dior. Also, if you don't know the site, they explain batch codes and spotting various formulations for thousands of different perfumes. So it's an excellent resource. I recommend, if you are looking to hunt down something a little older, it's a really great site. I'll try and link the thread in the description box to the Dior batch code information. So let's get on to the differences in the perfumes. So we'll start with the current formulation, and I've got some sprayed on my left arm. When you first spray it, to me it smells almost like Turkish Delight, but richer, almost like Turkish Delight with some really dark chocolate. And what I'm really getting, I think, is a rich rose, almost a jammy rose. I guess there's some fruity elements here, and they come into play with the rose to make it feel like a fruity rose. But the patchouli in here is so strong, much stronger than in all the other formulations that I've tried of Miss Dior. This patchouli is sweet, it's not too earthy, it's rich, almost syrupy, but it's very intense, and it blends with that rose to almost give a Middle Eastern feel, almost like an oud kind of perfume. Not that I smell oud, but it just gives that similar feel to those rose oud exotic fragrances that have become so popular over the last few years. Whether they were aiming for that, I don't know. It certainly is a trend, so perhaps that's where they were going. So what happens when you wear the fragrance for a while? It starts to get sweeter. I only really pick up on the rose. I think there's a couple of other florals. I think there's some white florals in here, but to me the rose dominates the whole time. There is a hint of something fresher going on. I think there's supposed to be some citrus in the opening as well, but I really don't pick it up. So mostly I get this rose patchouli combination, and as it sits on my skin, it gently sweetens up. The patchouli very, very slowly calms down, and there's no major transformations here. There's no sudden note showing up that wasn't there before. There's nothing that suddenly retreats. Everything's the same until eventually you get this vanillic, almost ambery dry down, and it feels like right at the end the rose does finally disappear. The patchouli just blends itself into a vanilla and a slightly resinous accord, and it's quite a sweet vanilla, and there's no vanilla listed. I'm pretty sure there's not anyway, but for me, I would stake my, what would I stake? I probably wouldn't stake my life. I would stake my most favorite lounge pants on the fact that there is vanilla in this formula. Now, I should mention the perfumer for both of these is Francois de Maché. He is the in-house perfumer for Dior. So that is the current formulation of Miss Dior. Now let's move on to the 2012 edition, which I have on my right hand. And this is an entirely different fragrance. It's much lighter, it's fresher, has a beautiful champagne-like opening, sparkling and effervescent. You can smell the white florals in here. The rose in here is much, much, much more subdued. It's not rich and thick like it is in the current formulation. It's fresh and it blends beautifully with the white florals. This fragrance does still have patchouli, but the patchouli is almost like a dust. It's not that thick, rich, syrupy patchouli of the current formulation. It's almost like you got some of the patchouli and you dried it out, and then you ground it, and then you sprinkle it over the beautiful florals, the fresh effervescent citrus, and then you add a little bit of clean musk, that lovely laundry fresh kind of clean musk, which I actually really enjoy. It's not a heavy musk, it's very light. It's not about the musk just adds a really nice element to the fragrance. There's definitely a sharpness in here, and I would say this one is more related to Coco Mademoiselle, if you know that one, which is a sharp white floral citrus fragrance. However, this is much more polite. This doesn't scream. This is not a room filler. It's adequate. It's the perfect fragrance for every day to work. It's the perfect fragrance as a signature scent. In fact, you could wear it in any situation or in any occasion. Much more versatile, in my opinion, than the current version, which is just a little rich, perhaps a little cloying or sickly. lends itself maybe more to colder weather, and it's also a bit more noticeable, has a little better longevity and projection. But my preference lies with the older formulation, the 2012. I really enjoy the lightness, the effervescence. I don't really love that patchouli in the current formulation, whereas the patchouli in the older formulation is much lighter, much easier to handle. I think if you don't like patchouli, you can still enjoy Miss Dior 2012, whereas if you have any objection to patchouli, then you need to steer well clear of the current formulation. The 2012 edition doesn't really change that much on my skin. It just gently fades away. And I don't mind that because it's a light fragrance. I often complain about linear fragrances and how they can bore me, but that's usually when it comes to the heavier fragrances. Oftentimes it's the gourmands when they are linear, meaning they don't change on my skin. And if they're quite heavy, then I find my nose gets aggravated by them in the end. However, if a fragrance is lighter, more delicate, more translucent, then when it's linear, it doesn't seem to bother me so much. Plus, the 2012 formulation doesn't have bombastic longevity. I would say after about 4 or 5 hours, I would be respraying this one just to make sure I can still smell it. I think that's really all I have to say about these two. I think I've made it quite clear that my favourite is the 2012 edition here. And I think that if you like one, there's every chance you'll dislike the other, because they are two completely different fragrances. There's also a chance you'll like both, but for different reasons. But just be careful and know what you're getting into, because it can be a very confusing world in the world of Miss Dior. So that's all for this video. There will be more Miss Dior videos coming up, and I thank you so much for watching. If you want to, you could always give me a like. If you haven't subscribed, then you could also do that, but there's no pressure. See you. Bye.